What's going on, guys? Welcome back to GOAT TV. Hope everybody's having a great COVID vacation, and hopefully everybody's staying safe and keeping your masks on, and doing what you're supposed to be doing. But today we got a different project we're working on. I picked up this Stihl chainsaw a bunch of months back at an estate auction. I paid up for it. I paid about $150 for it, but I think it's probably about a $400 or $500 chainsaw. It's having some difficulties running. I can get it started, and then when I hit the throttle, it kind of like bogs down and it doesn't stay running. So I ordered a new carburetor off of Amazon. So we're gonna install that in today, and let's see if we can get this thing running the way it's supposed to be running. A lot of times when you get that situation where when you give it throttle and it bogs down, a lot of times it's a hole in the fuel line, and I checked the fuel line and it didn't seem like to have any kind of leak or anything to it. I took the carburetor off, I cleaned it, and it ran for like a second, and then it started doing the same thing again. So for $15, and I'll put a link down below for it, through Amazon, made in China. And it's not the first carburetor I bought made in China, and they seem, I mean, actually, technically they're all made in China probably. So we're just buying it direct from China. So we'll install this baby today. So the chainsaw I'm working on is a Stihl 038 AV electric quick stop. Looks like a nice machine. It's in pretty good shape. A little dirty. Like I said, I paid about $150 for it. So it's a 20-inch bar, which my other chainsaw is an 18-inch bar, and I'd like to have a 20-inch also. I got some bigger trees out back that I have to go through, and it kind of probably come in helpful. So let's get started on taking this thing apart. So before starting, anytime you're going to start a new project, you always have to remember to just take a sip of coffee. This cover's got a little bit of a spring load in it, and it should just pop right out, maybe. There you go. And then the air filter, these just unscrew. Always have one of these in the shop. This is a magnetic tray. That way you can put all your nuts and bolts and screws or whatever, cotter pins, and keep you from losing it. And parts. So this is the carburetor here, and it looks like it's got a couple bolts holding it to the cylinder, and this is the fuel line here. I don't know if you can see that. Go right here, the fuel line. Fuel line could just pop right off, and that should be fine. And I think these are 10 millimeters. So let me get a little 10 millimeter socket. I checked the plug. The plug seems fine, and I did the compression test on it, and the compression was pretty strong. But to me, it just seems like it's a fuel issue, like really any other small engine. They don't get enough fuel, it ain't gonna run. All right, so we got these two connectors here that connect to the throttle. That has to be disconnected. And what else we got holding it back? that's it. So that is your carburetor. So hopefully the one I have is an exact match. I hope. Well, it looks the same. So this rubber piece that slides into the track here has to go onto the new carburetor. Well, let's see how it fits. Try to avoid messing around with these screws unless you know what you're doing. Mostly they're preset from the factory to certain specifications, and once you start messing with those, then you have bigger problems. Alright, so that looks about like it's in there, I think. Fuel line. So make sure it fits in there properly. Yeah, okay, looks pretty good. There's like a little vent hole there. So while I have everything out here, I just want to get a little rag and kind of like clean up all of the schmucks in here. Make sure nothing gets in here. Avoid using a blower or a air nozzle on here, because you have this open to your cylinder head and you don't want to get any dust or dirt in here. So I just try to like wipe it down a little bit just to get some of the crap out of here. I'm not doing any damage. Okay. Now I left the original gasket in here. I didn't bother pulling that out because this kit actually didn't come with a gasket, but most of the time the gaskets are fine. And when you slide that in, you got to make sure that the throttle arm is pulled out of the way. And then to attach the throttle arm, you got to push the throttle pin back, and there you go. So I don't know if you could see that. Let me see if I get a little better light in here. So right in here is your throttle arm. Goes on the throttle mechanism on the carburetor. So we'll make sure it locks in like that. Okay, and then obviously we attach the fuel line. Well, I gotta take another sip of coffee. Okay, then we can put your screws back in. And when you tighten these, you don't want to over tighten them. You just want to make them snug. You don't want to snap the bolt or anything, because once you do that, then you are screwed. But you snug them up, and then you just work each one so it seats nice and even against the gasket and prevent any type of air leak or little fuel leak. So that should be good enough. Got that. Check the throttle. And you have your switches here, so you want to make sure that your choke, your start, your stop, you didn't detach anything or loosen anything up, and just make sure that's functioning. Okay, so that looks good. This is a filter. Probably could use a new filter, but for now we're just gonna go with that. And the same thing with your air filter, just a little bit of time, make sure it's nice and snug, make sure everything is loose, free flowing. And we can put your cover back on. And that's it. We'll put a little fuel in it and we'll get it running. I actually may have fuel in it already from trying to run it. There's a little bit in there. We'll cap it off. Here's a good tip, guys. This is a 50-to-1 mix, ethanol-free fuel for a lot of these small engines. It's rather expensive to, like, I use my stuff a lot, so for me to buy cases of this, it would cost me a fortune. So I use my regular mix. I know I'm going to go through the fuel, and I really don't give it an opportunity for it to get old. But if you're going to put your machine away for the season, and the best thing to do is you drain that fuel out, and then you get some of this pre-mixed stuff that's ethanol free. You could leave that in there. You could leave that in there while you have it stored for the winter if you're not going to use it, and it'll not gum up or get old, and it'll stay fresh for you. So when you go to crank it up next year, you'll be in good shape, and you can run your regular mix throughout the season if you're going to constantly keep using it. But this is a nice little thing to have. I use it on almost all my equipment. At the end of the season, I have a Little Wonder push blower, and I'll use regular gas on that, and then I'll buy some of the ethanol-free cans, and my last few minutes of using it, I'll fill it with that stuff, run it through, and then store it with that fuel in it, and I won't have to worry about anything going bad. Well, there you have it, guys. Seemed like it was a little smoky, but I believe there's a lot of oil and all kinds of crap on the muffler here that it was burning off. But I think with a couple little minor adjustments, I think we're in good shape here. So yeah, it works. It works good. So we appreciate you coming by and checking out this video, and hopefully you can hit the like button a few times and do the subscribe, and hopefully share it with your friends that may have a carburetor issue on their chainsaw. A lot of what I did is pretty basic stuff. You don't have to be a mechanic. I am not a mechanic. I'm just a DIY guy, and I like to tinker with things and figure things out before I have to call an expert. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. You know, sometimes I'll mess it up and then I'll have to call an expert. But most of the time I kind of figure things out and I get through it. And hopefully you guys are the same way. And what I do as far as videos is it comes in helpful and makes you not afraid to try things. So with that being said, thanks again and stay safe out there. And we'll see you on the next video. Peace.